The world literally stood in shock this week as the famous cathedral in Paris, France, the Cathedral of Notre Dame, stood burning to the ground. And a number of things really stood out about that to me. One is that I found it very ironic that Notre Dame burned down on Holy Monday, which is the day after Palm Sunday, which according to the Gospel of Mark is the day in which Jesus went into the temple and cleansed it of the money changers. And surely a lot of people are going to speculate and wonder if there's something prophetic in the way that happened, how it happened on the same day. Beyond speculation, one thing that stands out to me is the unethical value that people have placed on this building. I saw today that nearly $800 million has been donated to rebuild the Notre Dame Cathedral, and that's in just about 24 hours, so surely even more money will come in. At the same time, I also saw that according to the United Nations, nearly 20% of the people in Africa do not have enough food to eat, and that there are more than 90 million children under the age of 5 in the world that are undernourished and underweight, simply because they just don't have enough food to eat. Now, the question logically has to be asked, what does it say about a world where people are more willing to rebuild a building than they are to feed children who are hungry? You know, this famous cathedral burns down, and in about 24 hours, nearly $1 billion has been raised. But every day, thousands of children die because they don't have enough food, and enough money is not raised to help them. So what does that tell us about the world that we live in? Well, it tells us that our priorities are completely backwards. They're completely off base. And perhaps the most ironic thing about the whole situation is that this money is being raised to build a building supposedly to direct people towards living the way that God wants them to live. It is a church after all. And this God says over and over again in the Bible how he wants our money to be used to help those less fortunate than us. But he doesn't say anything about building buildings. And I think the lesson that we take away from this is that the church today is really no different than the church in Jesus' day. And just like Jesus had to go into the temple on Holy Monday and drive out the money changers and cleanse God's house, so today the church needs to have its priorities cleansed, because our priorities are completely backwards in so many cases from the way that God would have them to be. And maybe the fact that God orchestrated the burning down of the world's most iconic Christian cathedral on the same day that Jesus cleansed the temple, maybe it is a message to us that we in our own times need our own personal cleansing and changing of our hearts, so that we don't overlook the legitimate and valid needs of millions of people around the world in favor of building a building that is not going to change the fact that all these children are dying and need food and need help, and we have the resources to do it, but we're just too busy focused on building buildings. Maybe that's the lesson that we can learn from the Notre Dame Cathedral. I'm Daniel R. Jennings, and this has been another Life Lesson.